Why you keep falling for the same person? Now, there's a hidden force behind who we love. There's a question I want to ask you today that most people never ask themselves honestly. Not because they don't want to know the answer, but because the answer, when it comes, changes everything. So here it is. Are you ready? What if the person you keep falling for, the type, the dynamic, the experience that keeps showing up in different packages isn't about the other person at all? What if it's a pattern, one that was written inside of you long ago before you ever went on that first date and long before you knew what love was supposed to be? A French writer from the 1800s, somebody who spent his entire life thinking deeply about love, said something that confused people at the time and for many years to follow. He said, "You don't actually love the person. You love the idea of that person, and you've built that inside of yourself, in your mind." Now, brain researchers have discovered since then that he was right. Who we fall in love with is not random, it's not timing, it's not luck, it's not even chemistry in any sense. It's a pattern. And until we understand that pattern, we keep recreating it. Different faces, different names, different relationships, but the same experience. At the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly who you love and what that means for every relationship in your life. And this is a video 1 of the Real Guide to Love series. I have 6 coming up, so stay with me. I hope this changes everything for you. The one pain point I want to talk about, I want to name something directly here because I think something brought you here. Maybe it's a relationship that ended again in a way that felt achingly familiar. Maybe it's a pattern that you can see clearly from the outside, but can't seem to escape it from the inside. And maybe it's the moment you looked at your new partner and thought, oh, this is the same person, different face, but same feeling. Maybe it's quieter than that. The relationship that isn't dynamic, isn't painful, but in an obvious way, it feels flat, safe, like something essential is missing. Or maybe you're not in a relationship at all right now, and you're sitting with that wondering, what is it about me that keeps ending up here alone, or almost loved, or loved in a way that didn't quite reach me? That feeling, whatever form it takes from you, is a gap between the love you're experiencing right now and the love you actually want. And I want you to know something about that gap. It's not a character flaw, and it's not proof that something is wrong with you. It's a map, and today we start reading it. Now, there is a science of who we attract. Now, here is what researchers have discovered about attraction. And it is more fascinating and more confronting than most people are ready for. Your body learned what love feels like before you were old enough to choose. In your earliest relationships with parents, with caretakers, the first people who were supposed to love you and protect you, something in them created a blueprint, a felt sense of what love is, what it feels like in the body, how it moves, what it asks of you, and what it gives back. And that blueprint stored not in your unthinking mind, but deep in the body, and your emotional memory becomes your unconscious guide. So here's the part that matters most. You are not attracted to what is good for you. You are attracted to what is familiar. And familiar and good for you are not always the same thing. The woman who grew up with an emotional, unavailable parent doesn't unconsciously seek unavailable partners, but something in her nervous system, something below the conscious thought, recognizes something in them. something familiar, and something that feels without her being able to explain why, like home. Even when home was painful, even when home was exactly what she's been trying to leave, it's home. So there are three ways we attract and what each one attracts. Let me make this kind of real, because understanding how you learn to attach to people is one of the most illuminating things you can do for yourself and for your relationships. Researchers have now identified three main ways people connect and love, and each one creates a very different experience. The first, loving from anxiety. Now, this is a person who loves deeply, sometimes too openly, too quickly, too completely, who monitors the relationship constantly, who reads the silences, needs reassurance that things are okay, and somehow still isn't fully reassured when she gets it. Who is terrified of being left, and sometimes without realizing it creates the very situation she fears the most. She tends to be drawn to and drawn into people who keep a certain emotional distance, because that distance creates uncertainty, and her body has learned to read uncertainty as intensity, as passion, as love. The second is loving from distance. This is a person who values independence above almost everything else, who gets uncomfortable when things get too close, too needy, too much, who pulls back when somebody moves towards her, and sometimes feels most attracted to people once they are no longer available. She tends to attract the person who loves from anxiety, because the anxious person's pursuit creates just enough pressure to feel like passion without the vulnerability or the real closeness. The push and the pull between these two. Put these two together and you get the most common and most painful relationship pattern there is. Pursue and withdraw. Hot and cold. I need you desperately. You pull back. You pull back and I need you more. Neither person is bad, but neither do this deliberately, but are simply playing out the blueprint their body learned was love. The third, loving from security. Now, this is a person who has either through a fortunate childhood or through deliberate healing work developed an inner steadiness that can hold both closeness and distance without panic, who can say what she needs. She can hear a no without being chaotic, who can stay present in conflict without shutting down or running, who feels mostly naturally drawn to and mostly attracted to other secure people, and who can sometimes, when she is genuinely grounded, provide enough steadiness to help somebody heal their own pattern. Now, here's the question I'd love you to sit with. Which of these do you recognize in yourself? Now, not from a judgment place and not from shame, just honest curiosity. Because that recognition, that moment of seeing yourself clearly is where everything begins to change. There is a deeper layer about these wounds and how they attract. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper because these three attachment patterns explain the how, but they don't always explain the why. Why this specific rune attracts that specific wound, why the woman who grew up feeling unseen consistently finds herself with people who don't truly see her, why the person who learned that love meant sacrifice keeps choosing people who need saving. Now, here's what I've come to understand after 25 years of sitting with people in their deepest places. We don't just attract our wounds, we attract the mirror of our wounds. the person outside of us who reflects back with remarkable precision the relationship we already have with ourselves. The woman who doesn't believe she deserves true love will find again and again people who will confirm that. Not because the universe is punishing her, but because her body is comfortable there. It knows that territory. It knows how to survive it. And the person who learned that love means giving everything and expecting nothing will find again and again people who take everything and give nothing, because that is what love has always felt to her. This is not destiny, this is a pattern, and patterns, unlike destiny, can be changed. That's the good news. Now, here's a part of my story that I'd like to be very open and real with you. I have lived this. I've spent decades in relationships that felt in the beginning like finally being seen, finally being chosen, and finally coming home. And then in ways that were different every time, but somehow always the same, I found myself invisible again. Giving everything, receiving just enough to stay, never quite feeling fully met. And I did what most of us do. I thought it was the other person. I thought if I could just find the right one, be more lovable, try harder, give more. And it took me a long time and a great deal of painful honesty to understand that the pattern wasn't in the people I was choosing. It was in what I believed I deserved. It was my blueprint my body had created in a childhood where love was conditional, where I made myself useful to be kept, where I learned to shrink to fit the space I was given. And the moment I started working on that, no, not the relationship, but myself, everything began to shift. And this is the work. And it is the most important work you will ever do. Now, where you are and where you could be, I want to paint two pictures for you right now. The first is where you might be right now. You might see the pattern, but you feel powerless over it. You keep attaching and experiencing the same thing, but in a different package. You give more than you receive, and you hold back more than you give, or you cycle between both. And somewhere underneath it all, a quiet question you might be afraid to ask out loud. Is real love, the mutual, safe, deeply nourishing kind, actually available to me? This is a painful place to be. To acknowledge that honestly, that's tough. The second picture is this. You understand your pattern, not the shame, but with genuine compassion. And you recognize how you learn to love, and you are beginning to be attracted to and to attract what is actually healthy, actually mutual, and feeling safe. You can feel the difference between intensity and real intimacy, between the familiar pull of the old wound and the quieter, steady, more nourishing feeling of love that actually holds you. Now, the second picture is not a fantasy. What becomes possible when you do this inner work. Through the love intelligence method, this is exactly what I guide women through. Not just understanding the pattern intellectually, but going to the root of it, feeling what is underneath, and creating from the inside out a genuine new experience of love. Now, if something in you is saying, yes, this is the work I need to do, the link to the Return to Self program and to book a heart-to-heart conversation is just below. No pressure. Just an open door for when you're ready. That French writer from the 1800s was right. We do love an idea we have built inside of ourselves. And here's what he didn't say: that idea can be rebuilt. The blueprint can be rewritten. And the pattern, however deeply embedded, however long it's been running, can be changed. Now, not overnight, not without real work, but completely. I've watched it happen in women who've come to me and who simply thought they were not made for love. And I've experienced it in myself. The love you want is not out there waiting to be found with the right person. It always begins with the relationship you are building with yourself. This is where the pattern lives, and this is where change happens. Now, we are building a beautiful intentional circle here. If your soul feels at home, hit subscribe so we can keep finding our way back to each other. Leave a comment below. Do you recognize the pattern in who you're attracting? And have you ever looked at a new relationship and thought, wait, this feels familiar? So let's talk about it. This is a safe place. This is video 1 of the Real Guide to Love series. So subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And whenever you feel ready to go deeper, reach out. Let's have a heart to heart, because you haven't missed your story. It's just about to begin. Love is the way back to self. And don't forget, love is your magic.